Hello and welcome. My name is Radha, and I'm the founder of Radha Publishing House. We curate multidimensional books that awaken the heart, invigorate the soul, and create meaning in people's lives. We specialize in collaborative book series, and today we're going to be talking about Infinite Cosmic Records, Doorways to Healing and Remembering. And we have a very special guest, Miss Danielle Schreck. Hello, Danielle.
Hello, Rada. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to connect with you.
You as well. We're really happy that you're going to be a part of this incredible book and share your experience of the Infinite Cosmic Records. Would you mind telling us what that experience is like?
It was amazing. For those who may not be familiar with Infinite Cosmic Records, it does remind me slightly of a cross between past life regression, so to speak, and a Akashic reading, but it's very different. So, and I'll explain to you why as we go on. But it was a very unique experience.
Wow. And so you went through the doorways because each person goes through this whole process and then they choose a doorway. How did you choose your first doorway?
Through intention. So Maya's really good at guiding you through the process. And when you first relax into that space, you kind of get dropped into a state of awareness where you set that intention and you're going into these doorways for something specific.
Mhm.
In my case, I just generally stated that I wanted to know what was needed for me at this point in my growth and evolution for me to move forward in life. What is it I need to know? So, setting that intention kind of was very broad, but it made a lot of sense as I walked through each door and I went through a total of two doors.
Wow, what was your first doorway like? What color was it? How did you listen
so
up?
yeah, so it was kind of interesting because as she had pulled me into um, leading to the door, there was a visualization, and I saw myself actually walking deep into earth.
Hmm.
And it was almost like, you open the ground and then you walk down the stairs, but I was going down underground. And it was almost like a cave like experience. There was nothing there but these two doors. And there was gravel, and they were kind of like edged around the earth, just like an archway.
Oh,
And the one on the right, I'm sorry, the one on the left, I did not want to go through. I can feel it like, oh, no, no, no. But the one on the right was like, yeah, let's go to that one. It was the first like safety zone. So they actually both looked the same, the doors. They just made of the actual dirt of the earth. And so I pushed it open, and as I walked through, it was this beautiful land. It was like a perfect sunny day. You walk through like a garden of like beautiful like wildflowers growing and the sun shining. It was just very tranquil. It was beautiful. And so I'm walking around and she's guiding me through the process. And I was actually by myself in that scene, and there was nobody around. It was just me. And it was almost like I was in a secret garden. It was this beautiful, elaborate, tranquil garden. And what I realized was it wasn't of this era. It was almost like the Victorian era feel. And because there was nobody around, she asked me to take a look at myself. And as I couldn't see myself, so I did see in the center of where this garden was like a really nice entryway that led to a pond, or like a built-in fountain with some water, fish, and stuff like that. But it was very like the earth was growing around everything, so it was very mystical looking. It was really neat looking. So I looked into the water and I saw a little girl, and I could see myself as like a younger child of maybe like nine, anywhere from 6 to 9 years old. And she asked, well, what does she have to say? What's the message? And the overall feeling that I had in that experience was to just play, be joyful, and have fun. And, you know, the little girl said, just play. I just want to play. And she's like, okay. So she led me, Maya walked me through the process of, um, walking myself through that journey. And it was very quick, actually. There wasn't really, quote unquote, like a hard lesson there. It was mostly like comfort and safety and almost like the best of what could be. You know what I mean? So we ended up leaving that door. I didn't want to go, but it was, I had to go to the other door. So as I left that door, I instantly knew I did not want to go to the one to the left. I could feel the overwhelming feeling. And same thing, I pushed the door open, and all of a sudden, everything was dark and gloomy. Same thing, nobody was around. And this time, I was standing in the middle of what was like a scene in a medieval movie, where all the commoners are there and they're buying their stuff, but nobody was there. It was just me. And in that case, it was weird because I was in this like area and I couldn't go very far. It was almost like I couldn't even walk forward. And
Mm.
so she really had to dig a lot to figure out what was going on because I was so stuck in my head and it was very paralyzing. And I just stood there. And in that particular visualization, I was able to see myself as a man. I was tall, a good looking, longer wearing like not like armor per se, but I was wearing like heavier clothing, and we were trying to identify why I was there. And it was almost like I was in a state of like hypnosis. And what we realized is that a fragment of my soul had been paralyzed in time due to
Wow.
fear. And it was during an era of plague and, darkness and a really strong heaviness that had been taking hold of that part of town. And um, I realized that I needed to move forward and, step out of this place of fear. And it took a while to build up that courage. But once I did, it was like, boom, I took off. And I ran to the forest and I ran and ran and ran as far as I can go. And I felt like I ran for a really, really long time. And as I was running, it was like I was burning off all that energy, because it was like so intense. And I ran to the forest, and deep into the forest was this beautiful home that kind of gave you like almost like an ethereal witchy vibe and like a
Aw.
and so I could see it on the side, and there's like a little creek that goes over a creek and a little like bridge, and it looks so picturesque. It was so pretty, and there's like steam coming out of the from the fireplace type of thing, and I walk in, and there's a woman there. She actually looks like me, like how I am now, blonde hair, pale, short, and they're kind of like, I wouldn't say they were not romantically involved. They were just, there was an understanding of like they were helping each other out. And I got the feeling that she was like a witch type of person, but we just sat there and we just like a companion, and she fed him or fed me and took care of him. And then I had to leave. And as I left, I did the same thing. I ran as quick as possible through the town. And as soon as I came through that door, I like turned around and slammed it and leaned up against it. And I was like, holy cow. But I felt so much velocity from that choice and that point in time where I made a decision and I just like, I ran. And I feel really proud of myself for overcoming that as I was on the other side of the door because the intensity of those emotions were so heavy. There was so much fear. It was very kind of like when you get a lot of pressure on your chest
Yeah.
kind of feeling. And the funny part was when I turned around, Rada, I literally saw a hallway and it was almost like lights went on
Yeah.
and as the halls illuminated and boom, all these doors started to like expose themselves to me. And I was like, oh my God, there's more doors because my mind was so focused on that intention of why I was there that all I literally saw were the two doors. But it was and until I came through on the other side and I saw it, I realized we have, like, I have a whole hallway of doors.
Mhm.
And one door in particular stood out to me the most that I would love to go through. And it was this shiny, it was like shining white out of the door, like, oh. So that one I would love to go through. I want to know what that is. And
Oh,
yeah, I was being guided to, walk up the stairs, and then I left. So it was very polar opposite of one another,
mhm.
the best scenario, the absolute worst scenario. So it was interesting.
It is interesting. It's interesting how you describe being frozen in time, because I've had that experience too, where I was like frozen in time from trauma.
Yeah.
And so I had to actually go back and to those really dark places and retrieve my soul fragment, and it's like and transmute that energy and bring light to that aspect of myself from that time. And so I know the feeling, but it's jarring because you do have to face really uh dark emotions, you know. It takes tremendous courage, because it's almost as if you're back there again, the place wherever you didn't want to be, whatever was happening that you didn't want to be a part of. But our souls actually get fragmented when we experience certain trauma. And so a lot of us leave parts of our soul in different places, time periods, people. And reclaiming it is like the number one thing we need to do in order to come back into our wholeness. So congratulations for facing that. It's like a huge initiation. It's pretty amazing how you can see all of that in just one session. You were able to experience two doorways like that time. The Renaissance, I guess it's before the Renaissance, probably, because the Renaissance probably came after. During the darkest of the dark was before the Renaissance. So um how do you feel like that has somehow like played it out in your life a different way, where you have more courage, or what is it? How do you feel like that manifested differently in your life?
What's interesting about that is when I was a kid, I had a situation where, and I always wondered what this was about because there was no reason why I couldn't just open a gate. But I was in preschool actually, and I was running late, and the gate just felt so big to me, and I was literally stood there in fear without the um, courage to just open it. I'm like, it's just a gate. You just walk through it, right? But at that moment, that same feeling as a kid I had then reminded me of the feeling I had with that, with the experience as that man. And that paralyzing fear can really stop you in your tracks.
Mm,
It creates, yeah, it's a very heavy feeling. It's kind of difficult to explain, but when I was able to overcome it, I did feel that rush of courage and I felt proud of myself. I was like, I did it. I
mm,
was able to break free is what it felt like, because in a way, it's kind of that same mentality of, a horse being tied to a plastic chair, and the horse could totally move, but its mindset is like, well, I'm tied to the chair,
yeah.
but you're not. You know? You could totally break free. I could absolutely open the gate. I could have just, walked calmly around, whatever. But, these traumas really hit you hard sometimes, where it's like you almost get like so. It's a interesting feeling, and I do notice that because I'm so sensitive that sometimes things shock me into that space where I have a hard time like moving out of it because it's like so intense. And I feel I'm getting better at that
Mm,
now. And I think that it's because I choose to feel the emotion. Most people are hide it or don't want to experience it. But, part of being human is experiencing all the different levels of emotion. And yeah, it was a very interesting thing because it did make me think about that experience as a kid. And it's not like I think about it often, but it's something that's very prominent in my memory as an adult from
Mm,
that age. And people like my family probably wouldn't even know, but it's
mhm.
something I hold inside internally.
Wow.
And this has a lot to do with like stepping into that empowerment and, with velocity, not, you know, overthinking it, just do it and, things will flow and yeah.
So interesting. Yeah, I love that saying you have to feel to heal. It's
Yes.
the only way out, is through. So we have to sometimes go back and revisit these timelines or lifetimes where we've had been stuck and retrieve that. It's like we are our own superhero. With
Yes.
the Infinite Cosmic Records, you get to go in and pull parts yourself out, and be like, this is and integrate it back into ourselves.
Mhm.
That's what I love about it. And how would you describe the Infinite Cosmic Records to somebody that's never experienced it? Maybe they've never experienced healing at all. Maybe they've experienced a lot of healing. How would you describe it?
Yeah. It's very relaxing. You just, you're laying down and she does walk you through a process. Maya's very intuitive on how she gets you to, kind of like drop into that
Mhm.
space where you can allow the subconscious to be more on the forefront. It does, again, remind me a little bit of a cross between the past life regression hypnosis. It's not, but it's similar in the sense that you do see, if, well, in my case, I was able to see, I have a vision, so to speak. And um, what I mean by that is that if you are imaginative and can visualize, that's kind of what it was like for me. And the less I overthought and just allowed it to kind of come forward, it was stronger, especially towards the end. And I feel like it can also be, if you're familiar with the Akashic records in a sense, even though it's completely different, it's a way to access your consciousness. So
Yeah.
that's the way I would describe it. But it's very relaxing and something that you want to allow your subconscious mind to just kind of step forward and, you know, and that's difficult to explain. It's like, what does that mean? It's for me, I feel like it's also too, like if you're familiar with meditating, you might also be able to do that, like quickly drop into that space and allow it to come forward.
I noticed that too. Like, yeah, I just noticed how everything kept coming forward in front of me. All I had to do was be present, and then it would be like the next thing and the next thing.
Mhm.
Um, it's kind of wild how you don't really have to yeah, you don't have to overthink it. It just shows up. What I
Correct.
think what you have to do is just not try to let your thoughts interrupt while you're in the flow, because sometimes the thoughts could be critical. You know,
Right.
I mean, I've opened a doorway where there was nothing but the clouds, and I was, I could overthink that, but and then it was like, just jump, and I did. But if I overthought it, I wouldn't have had the experience. So there is a bit of surrender and trusting that your subconscious really wants to give you what you need. Like, it really wants you to heal. It wants you to get everything you need from that experience. That's why I think it's pretty cool that the hallway lit up, like, that's cool, but it just goes to show that your subconscious made the decision. It's time to look. First, we'll start off with a really nice one, then we'll go to the one that's, frozen, but we're gonna get somewhere today. We're gonna move some energy. And so your subconscious is very intelligent. It knows everything that's going on beyond what we can recognize. So
Yeah.
um, I just think that's cool that the doorway is like lit up afterwards.
And it looked different than what was behind me because what in front of me, again, everything was built out of the earth. It almost reminds me of the Hobbit homes, you know what I mean? But it was like a round, and then you just pushed it open. But when I turned around, it was like a legit hallway, like in a normal, in a home. And it was like, dude, the lights went, dude, 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 dude. And it was like, turning on at different times. When you walk
Yeah.
by and the automatic lights come on, and it was so dramatic because it was so many doors compared to what I saw prior. And so what I realized at that time, what I really needed to overcome and push through was the duality of choices in life. So like comfort zone and maybe not a lot of growth, but you're happy and content. And then there's the I'm gonna go extreme, and sometimes when you go to that point, you have experiences that will challenge you, and so the lesson of overcoming fear and velocity, and then there was my comfort on the other side. So it was exactly what I needed at this point in my life to be able to move forward because I'm, growing as a person and taking new challenges and risks and learning and, um, overthinking and being stuck in your head doesn't do anyone service. And that's a big thing that I've worked on for quite a while. And that tied into this particular session and was very helpful, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Amazing that you saw. I can almost see it when you explained it. It's like, wow, you're right there. It kind of drops you in right there into different time and place, and it's kind of fun. I think it's kind of fun to discover who you are. Who
Oh,
are
I
you?
didn't know I was this strong of a person, or I didn't know I was ever this, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So what was your overall feeling throughout the whole process of working with Maya the shaman? Like what stood out the most for you?
I think what stood out the most for me was how serious of a healing this was because again going into those darker aspects of myself and then retrieving a fragment because I didn't understand at the time while it was happening the full like I totally understand it now, but while it was happening in real time, Maya was doing such a great job at guiding me um to help me like take those steps because it was a bit of a process. It was very challenging and it scared the crap out of me, to be honest with you. But not in a way that I couldn't handle it. It was just like, whoa, this is different. And it just was such a relief to like overcome it. Um,
Oh, I bet.
yeah, so it just really stood out how well she was able to guide me through my fear, and then ultimately um, receive like the understanding as time went on after the session because even though you're having a session, there's the time after the session, your reflections, listen, maybe you listen to the audio again or you rehash the notes and you pick up pieces of the healing and the information, and it's like little light bulbs that turn on at different times. So in a way it was an ongoing healing. So I think that's really cool about the cosmic records is you go in for a session, but it's not like just like with most healing, it's not one and done. But if you do a, a session like this, it's one and it's not done for sometimes for a while
Yeah.
for that one time, So you're
So
like
through it.
really integrating it, and it's just so deep. I think is for me, and that's what I like. People who are into this type of work, they love depth, they love the deepness and richness of it, because that's what our soul wants, right? We're very deep
It's the ultimate adventure. It's really cool, like what you said earlier about it's kind of like the Akashic records in a way but the Akashic records are like it's like a library full of books and you have your book. Um, and it's really fun to read that, but it's quite different because this is like a very interactive experience. I know they're doing a lot of these virtual games now, where you put put on the virtual glasses and then you're
Oh my
going in there, and this is kind of like that, except on it's the cosmic records, like the hall of records, but they're doors. Each doorway is like part of your past, present, future, parallel lifetime. So
mhm.
there's something you're going to receive on the other side that's part of you. And the ones that you're not meant to be part of, they're going to be like they'll shut down for you. You'll
Right.
only see the door that's right for you. And even if you have trepidation about going through it, there is something there if it's calling you.
Right.
Oh, so I've had that feeling too, like, what is this door? Like I went through a Moroccan door. It was so beautiful, but when I went inside, it was kind of eerie because nobody's there and it's this huge temple. And so it's like you're walking through the journey alone in some way, but you're guided.
Yes.
So there isn't the element of having all these distractions. It's
Right.
your soul's going in exactly where it needs to go to retrieve the piece of the puzzle that we're all putting together.
A good way to put it, because it truly it is in a way like a video game, and it's nothing that your subconscious isn't anything you're not ready for. So
Mhm.
like even though I felt all that heaviness and fear, I was ready for it. I asked for it. That was what I was looking to release, and maybe even call back a part of my soul that I didn't even know that I needed to call back. It makes so much sense. Again, that whole scene, even though it's very different, it absolutely reminds me of that moment as a child in preschool. And I feel, and I actually know those two interactions are very connected.
Mhm.
So I never knew that that would need healing, and it wasn't a memory I held on to, but it was re-triggered and I remembered. It's like, wow, forgot about that.
It's like
Our
the
the
gate,
game. Yeah.
opening the gates back up and also retrieving your inner warrior because it sounds like he feels like a knight or something of that, like a
Yeah.
warrior.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, those are tough times. Yeah,
Yeah.
you had to do whatever you had to do. Um, and
Yeah, I feel like with that scene, because I'm not 100% sure, it never came into full vision, but I was searching for life, like people, and I do get the feeling that in some way I was of service. I was a maybe not a full on knight, but somehow connected to the patriarchy of that time. Like, hey, I'm here to do a job and I'm looking for something. But I was in a way like it was very challenging for people mentally, emotionally, and physically at the time. So kudos to our versions of ourselves for being there, you
Yeah,
know?
those were tough times, but here we are integrating all of it and it makes us tough people. Stronger. We can take all of our experiences and if we can integrate all of that without the trauma, it really
Right.
is amazing because all of that information and knowledge and the strength we've cultivated throughout all these lifetimes can be pretty incredible when we bring it back into this version of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I felt strong. I felt empowered. I felt proud of myself. I felt courage and I felt a rush of energy.
Really?
Yeah, it was a good feeling. I mean, the part there, like like that was the hard part. But once I came back on the other side, I was like, wow, I'm so glad we did that.
Yeah, so it's a relief. It's kind of like you're going on a mission, but you're gonna come back
Yeah.
better off for it. It's a hero's journey. So you went on it. I'm proud of you for stepping into it. You could have been like, no, I don't want to, but then you'd never have retrieved that piece of yourself. So it does take courage, but you don't have to be in fear. It just takes courage. Everything in life that's worth doing takes courage, I think. And speaking of courage, how was your writing process? Because that takes courage too to write your story. And
Yeah. In this particular situation, for some reason, it just flowed. It just came out. I think for whatever reason, that part of myself wanted to express the experience and it did it very fluidly and I actually wrote it pretty quickly. So
oh, that's
yeah,
incredible.
sometimes you can have a little bit of a writer's block or maybe there's just no flow, but the healing was so profound that it was like, okay, let's write about it. Boom, done.
Oh, that's incredible, Danielle. I'm so happy to hear that. And your story is really prolific. So we can't wait for that to come out and everybody can read it. And
Thank you.
lastly, how would you recommend people working with Maya for Infinite Cosmic Records?
Yeah, I already have. I mean, I definitely recommend her. She's an amazing woman. in general to work with. Such a pleasure, easygoing person. She's so lovely and very, very helpful and intelligent. Well, as far as the healer, she's so gifted. I mean, you guys, yeah, she's a no-brainer. I've already been telling people about her. So,
Aw.
yeah.
And, I wanted to share also, that everyone has a lesson to learn, so I just wanted you to share any lesson you wanna share with listeners right now, and, maybe share one or two of yours that have made you the person that you are today.
Wow.
I know, big question.
Well, I can talk, so I'll try to keep it simple. um, I feel in this particular situation, especially with my personal journey down the two doors, don't get too like it's okay to have comfort in life, but don't get too comfortable to where you don't take a little bit of adventure and risk, because not all calculated risk can be good.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not bad to and it could be simple as, for example, when you're talking and meeting new people, trying to build your business or clients, if someone tells you no, for example, why take it personal? They're just not, it's not the time for them. So just keep going forward, keep the momentum going. That because that velocity that keeps things moving is really important. Once
Mm.
you get too comfortable and then you start relax. I mean, relaxing's good, but within you gotta keep an ebb and flow of a little bit of comfort, a little bit of velocity. And so at
Yeah.
least that's the way I see it, after this experience, because you go one way too extreme and then one way the other, there's an imbalance. And that's why I call my chapter duality. You have to have that balance
I
and
love
awareness of both.
that. That's so cool. That's so beautiful. I love that analogy. And what are you currently up to? I know you do healing as well. Can you tell us what's next for you and where people can find you?
Yeah, so I'm excited. There's been a lot going on for over a year or so, and I'm currently doing pendulum healing and alchemy, and I do take private sessions, and I do once a month a group energy healing event that I'm currently sharing with humanity. So anyone who wants to partake in that, it's a great way to have multiple sessions in one type of deal with a group setting, and it's all done through Zoom. We have obviously the Infinite Cosmic Records coming out, but I was also in energy healing and soul medicine and
Yeah.
of lights. And then our most recent baby we're working on is Stories of the Goddess, Divine Frequency Keepers. And so I've been working with you, Rada, as an ambassador to assist the beautiful women who are meant to bring forth these key codes. And so I, work a lot with women and anyone who wants to connect. I'm happy to connect in any way and help each other out and grow our community, our tribe.
I love that. That's what it's all about, community. You know,
Yes.
yeah, creating a bigger communities. So thank you so much for joining, Danielle, and thank you all for listening. I'll put Danielle's information below, as well as Maya the Shaman. Have a beautiful evening, and please be sure you grab a copy of Infinite Cosmic Records, because it's going to be an incredible, incredible book. Much love for now.